Go ahead, you're on.
Thank you, Jen. Call the meeting to order. Jen, will you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Corbin. Commissioner Bell.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Waldner. Mayor Denner.
Here. We have the agenda in front of us.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Nothing under appearance and acknowledgement. Consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Seeing we're at 5:34, we'll go to unfinished business. I'll open up the public hearing upon application for sales of alcoholic beverages, temporary retail on and off sale, malt beverage license, Greater Madison Area Chamber of Commerce, Lake Area Improvement Corp. Downtown in Madtown. Jen, everything good on that?
Absolutely. You have in front of you the notice that was published last week,
Okay.
along with the application that you saw several weeks ago for 6 dates, Tuesday night dates for this year's Downtown and Madtown.
Okay.
Mr. Hortonus could not be with us today. I thought someone else was joining, but
Okay.
if you have questions, I can try to answer. But yes, everything is in order on the finance office end.
Seems there's no one here to speak on their behalf, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move down to new business. Approve application for sale of alcoholic beverages, temporary retail on-off sale malt beverage license, Greater Madison Area Chamber of Commerce, Lake Area Improvement Corp., Downtown Madtown.
Since there was no feedback in the public hearing, I don't think there's anybody new since we closed that part of the agenda, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve that application.
Second.
Alcoholic, item number 1 under new business.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Okay. If not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 2, authorize mayor to sign letter of agreement, First District Association of Local Government Environmental Assessment for Water System Improvement Project to come out of the water fund cash balance. Chad, do you have anything?
Yes, thank you. I can say a few words about that. This is First District's efforts to submit some environmental review documents to the agencies required by rural development, USDA rural development. This will be a resubmittal of the water system improvements, but then that will also be joined with additional utility environmental clearances as well for what we anticipate doing the sanitary sewer and storm sewer in those same streets that the water improvements were planned for. And so my understanding, we were at a briefing with, I think Mayor Dennert was there and Commissioner Corbin were both at that. First District talked a little bit about that with us, that typically they assist with the administration on the backside of these grants, and it's not always a charge that they incur this fee. When that happens, I believe the finance office is doing that administration. They've opted to do that themselves without the assistance of First District, and so that's in part why there's some costs that First District is trying to recoup there. But then in addition to that, it is, as I had mentioned, a resubmittal for some work they'd already done. already as well. So with that, I can try to stand by for any questions for that. I would recommend that we proceed. You know, we need to take the environmental information from the preliminary engineering report, which you'd seen previously, the one that was dated in April, and that excerpts from that, including maps and such showing the locations, has to be sent to all the different environmental agencies, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Game Fish and Parks, Department of Environmental Natural Resources. There is some FEMA review in there as well. To a lesser extent, State Historic Preservation Office, because that may be handled directly with rural development, but nonetheless, that's part of the environmental review as well. So.
Well, with that, I'll make a motion to sign the letter agreement for First District Association of Local Governments Environment Assessment for Water System Improvement Project.
Using water fund cash balance, please.
Water fund cash balance.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Comments?
And one
Yep.
question.
Yep.
Chad, last week when we talked about the new area, and we approved a group from Watertown doing an assessment, or was it a historic group?
The archaeologist.
Yes. This is actually, we meant to put this on there. It's somewhat, it's for the same project.
Okay.
We just didn't get the coordination with Jen and the folks to get that on there. But yes, it's for the same project. It's for the rural development project. That work that I described last week was for the environmental reviews from the archaeological folks.
That's what I was thinking.
And then their information will be provided to the State Historic Preservation Office, referred to oftentimes as SHPO. And so this is another component of the environmental process, if you will, of getting those clearances.
That meant the one last week had more to do with archaeological sorts of things,
Correct.
as opposed to environmental sorts of things.
Correct. They're both environmental, but this is sending it to the different agencies. They're required to have all these different agencies review this proposed project and comment on the impacts. So.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Any further comment, discussion?
You got anything to say,
No,
Brad?
that was well covered.
Okay.
Okay, if not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 3, authorize the mayor to sign application East River Electric Power Corporation, Inc., permit to occupy right-of-way Center Street to Hearth Avenue. Chad, would you
Yes,
want to
thank you.
comment?
Thank you, Mayor Denner. I can say a few things, and then also the gentleman who I had been talking with from East River Electric, Mr. Paul Lecce, is also here. He may have a few things to add as well, or try to answer any possible questions. But this is you've seen several of these lately. It's an application to put infrastructure in the city's public right-of-ways. East River doesn't have a separate franchise agreement. We talked briefly about that last week. I believe it was last week, yes. And so they want to bury a fiber optic line. I believe it's a communication line between their headquarters on First Street at the intersection of First and Hearth over to their new facility on Second Street, Northwest Second Street. This portion happens to be in the city's right-of-way, and so we utilize this form to document these uses of our right-of-way, if you will. And so Mr. Lecce had completed the form. He attached a map showing the proposed route. It is along Center Street. Also included in the agenda packet is some conditions, which we have special conditions, which we have used in the past for other parties, most commonly South Dakota Network, or SDN. And so we shared those with Mr. Lecce as well, so he was aware of that we'd likely be asking the commission to implement those special conditions. And then one other last thing is, I did have some conversations with Mr. Lecce about the route, Center Street. We just rebuilt that last year. If there was any alternate routes and such like that, so as not to further disturb that area. And again, I'll let him address it as he sees fit in a moment. But this is primarily boring underground. There would be no street disturbance. There will be work in the boulevard areas, as I understand it. Anything disturbed will be replaced and reseeded and so on by their contractor. That contractor or East River, whichever it may be, we leave it to their discretion, would have to get an excavation permit. So we'll have a subsequent mechanism, if you will, for review and oversight. And my understanding, and again, I'll let Mr. Lecce clarify, there may be, on the route of Center Street, other than at each end, which will likely have a structure where they'll pull wire from and so on, there may be 2 separate locations along that route where there may be a hand hole, what's referred to as a hand hole. But there may be more. Again, I'll let Mr. Lecce address that. But so that, in other words, what you're going to see at the surface will be rather minimal when everything's said and done. There'll be a little disturbance while it's going on, but generally those folks, the boring folks, kind of come in and out pretty quickly. So with that, I'll stand by for questions, or if Mr. Lecce has anything to add or you have questions for him.
If you want to come up to the mic, please.
Thank you.
Which side of the road are we going to be working on? Is it the north or the south, or is it
Looking at the north side.
north side? Okay. And nothing in the road, tearing up the road?
Nope, nothing in the road. It'll all be done in the boulevard. I'll be done with directional boring done by Embark Directional Drilling out of Canastota.
Okay.
Why wasn't this done when project was done a year ago, when we already had the mess? And now we're coming back and we're going to expect the people to get their yards tore up again? I mean, how much more can we expect the people to stand still for this? Was it a lack of communications from East River, or was it on our end?
I'm not sure where the lack of communication was, to be honest with you. I don't believe East River was aware when we were putting this in the planning process that City of Madison was going to rebuild Center Street.
Chad, I know we've had several discussions about the grass growing. Are we going to have issues where they dig it up and then the other contractor says, well, we planted it, if it didn't grow, it's because of them boring or something like that? Or are we good there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, certainly there can be, but what I envision is the areas where East Engbarth will be disturbing will be rather small and easily identifiable. And Mr. Lecce had mentioned that to me earlier today. He was able to stop in just a few minutes before the meeting, that they may not be doing their work till September. And so I'm pretty optimistic that our grass stand will be better, much better by then. And so that will also make identifying disturbed areas by East River's contractor very easy to identify.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes. You want to come on up, George, please?
Huh?
If you want to come on up to the mic, please.
I was just gonna, I don't know if there's anybody in Madison that didn't know we were tearing up Center Street last year. I mean, East River employees live down that way, across that street. Boy, that would have been the time to do it. You know, I mean, that building's been out there now, the new one, what?
I think we finished it up about a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems strange to me a few years. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean-
What are we gonna do, hold on now? I mean, I have the same question you do that Bob asked, but at this point, do we hold it up because of an error on our part, and as long as they're gonna restore it completely. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It strikes me, I thought we were kind of trying to get that thing where when we dug something up, we tried to get everybody in that we possibly could, that had
Do you have to go
Skin in the
down
game.
Center Street? Can you go down another street?
We have rural utility service approval to go down Center Street. So that's a work plan amendment process that we went through, and if we were to try to re-amend that amendment, it could potentially delay the project by several months.
Well, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the application from East River Electric Power Cooperative Inc. permit to occupy right-of-way Center Street to Harth Avenue.
I'll second it on one condition, that there's no tearing up Center Street or the on and off street. I'll second it.
Okay. You have a motion and a second? Yes.
We do have on the, if I may, excuse me,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, with the condition that Commissioner Thill had mentioned, we do have a location to write on these permits, special conditions. And so I do intend to work with the finance office to annotate in that location that these special conditions that are typed up apply, but I want to make it clear, should I also add that there shall be no disturbance of the street surfacing, as Commissioner Thill. And perhaps to make that, if that's the case of, the wishes of you three, do we need to amend, ask Mr. Johnson, Commissioner Johnson, to amend that motion to include?
I would accept that amendment.
Okay, and then that's, your second applies, okay. Then I will make sure that's noted in there as well. Does that create any problem for you? I mean, my understanding is you're not going to tear up the street at all anyway, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any further, we've got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion?
1 second. Mayor,
Okay.
When I was reading through the permit on the back of the right-of-way, again, I guess it refers back to, I asked this last week, condition 2, when it says, City of Madison is held harmless. In other words, if there's destruction of some sort or problems, that need to be rectified, that will be the responsibility of East River, correct? Based on that. Just want some clarity. That kind of speaks to what we're talking about
Right.
here, really.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. No further comments or discussion. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, authorize mayor to sign consultant agreement, Dakota State University intramural coordinator. Jen?
Yes, this is an annual agreement. You see it about this time every single year. Service date beginning 7/1 of 19 through 6/30/20. You will remember that the city's recreation coordinator also serves as DSU's intramural coordinator. We pay that salary and we ask for reimbursement from DSU twice a year up to the maximum of $25,000. That amount has been the same in the years past, and that will once again cover us for this next fiscal year.
Comments, questions?
All right.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Dakota State intramural coordinator.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 5, authorize mayor to sign grant application FAA AIP 3-46-0029-017-2019 rehabilitate remark runway 15-33 and turnaround. Chad.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Denner. Included in the agenda packet is an application to the FAA for this grant. This is a project, I should have started by saying, this is a project that you've seen come through and talked about over the past couple months. Most recently, when you authorized the bidding for this project, and then prior to that, when you agreed, the commission agreed to hire KLJ ahead of any grant, so they're to front that cost for the design effort. So what this is this brings it all together. It's the design effort, the bid, which was we received bids last Tuesday. There is a small tabulation in there showing the total bid near the end of the literature for this item, and then it also brings in the administration efforts by KLJ for oversight on this, and it includes all those into this grant application. This is a common grant application process that you have seen in the past for other projects with the FAA. Most recently, the parallel taxiway. That's a larger one that's ongoing, and the timing is such that this would need to be turned around promptly to meet the grant deadlines for FAA, and then the contractor will have to hold their bid until such time that this grant is received. We'll receive a grant agreement, and then that'll also be before you as well. And then the other item that will also be before you is the actual consideration of the bid by this company. We didn't have that on the agenda here. Preliminary indications are that this company is, the bid was adequate and suitable and acceptable. It's just a formality of, or I shouldn't say a formality, but it's a step in the process to bring that to you for official awarding. Also before the grant agreement is signed. So with that, I would be happy to stand by for questions. The city would, per this grant agreement, the city would pay 10% of the overall project, which is about $10,000.
That sponsor share.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This is your magic sheet here, gentlemen.
Yep. And you said that $203,000 includes the professional service agreement, or no?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Everything.
Thank you.
Does this go by the airport board?
Mm-hmm.
And they're good with this?
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the grant application FFA-AIP 3-46-0029-017-2019 rehabilitation/remark runway 15-33 and turnarounds.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further comment or discussion?
No.
Okay. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 6, authorize mayor to sign professional service agreement, KLJ Inc. AIP 3-46-0029-017-2019 rehabilitate remark runway 1533 and turnaround. Chad?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Denner. Included in the agenda packet is a letter dated June 19th from John Becker, aeronautics planning engineer from the Office of Aeronautics for the South Dakota Department of Transportation, and then also this agreement. that is this particular agenda item. The agreement is for the oversight using the consultant we pre-selected in the consultant selection process to oversee the project that we just considered for the grant application. The letter, I should talk about the letter. I mentioned it, but I didn't say what it was. The letter was a document that indicates DOT who works, they have staff that works on airport-type projects throughout the state. They review these to assist the local sponsors, airport sponsors, to make sure that the fee arrangements and such for these consultant agreements are in line, and that letter does talk about Mr. Becker's opinion about that. Believes it's appropriate and reasonable. I would recommend approval of this agreement to hire KLJ to do this oversight for this project.
When was the last time we did this?
The runway was built in '04, and the taxi lanes were built in '11, and so this does pavement marking, but this is also some joint resealing of those, and then also some spot pavement repairs. All in all, the pavement is in pretty good condition out there. It's served very well, but sometimes, from time to time, the joints need to be sealed and to keep the water out of the subgrade and so on. So.
Yeah, I was thinking mostly just of the remarking the runway. I think that was kind of how often that happens.
I don't know. I believe it's been done at least one time since the original application. Do you recall, Bob, how long have you been on them?
I've been on there for 5 years now.
Yeah, and I don't believe it's been done since, this might be the first time as I recall. So.
See, the north end is all tore up and new concrete put in because they had to put a storm sewer across the runway.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, mayor signs professional service agreement for the airport on runway and the turnarounds.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? If not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Jen, do we have public comment? George Lee.
The one thing about West Center, I'm just curious about the storm drain still being covered.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the erosion control, what they're referred to as erosion control inlet protection. And when we accomplish a project like this, we have to fill out a stormwater, an application for stormwater discharge. And we have to prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan. And in that, we're supposed to maintain erosion control measures to prevent sediment from not only getting into our storm system, that's sort of, it could be thought of as a side benefit, but also getting into any receiving waters and so on. And so that's to try to catch any sediment and debris from leaving the site while it's not fully revegetated. Typically, I apologize, I can't think of the number off my head, top of my head, but I believe it's something to the effect of 70% or something like that. It's supposed to be 70% revegetated before we really should take those off. And so that's why they're in there. I know they're a nuisance. We've been monitoring them. I'm pretty sure they aren't backing water up onto properties and such, but I know it's just a mess on the street when it rains. So hopefully, we've had some really good growing weather when our grass grows, and we can get those pulled as soon as possible and cleaned up there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The other thing was about the shrimp. I've been trying to follow the true shrimp thing. I just wanted to give you my opinion, I guess. I hope you don't spend one dime out there until you got a rock solid agreement signed with these people.
I think that's our, Brad, that's our intentions.
Yeah, outside of a little bit of engineering, which we're going to split 3 ways.
Right.
and that engineering could be used for any development out there that uses that stuff. But outside of those costs, we anticipate having an agreement between True Shrimp and the City of Madison and Lake Area Improvement Corporation for the purchase and improvement of that property. And that'll have all the costs of everything spelled out, who does what, who gets what, and who's responsible for what. And in particular, we're looking at coming up with some form of security for the city for the improvements that we put in on behalf of True Shrimp. And in this case, it could be a multitude of different types of financial devices. We haven't, gotten to those details yet, but it's our intention to have an agreement that encompasses all those things, and one of them will be financial security.
I know, one meeting I was at here a while back, the Lake Area Development share was like 1.3 million, and our city's was 4.3. What's that 4.3 cover? I mean, would it cover, do you know?
Primarily, it's electric. The True Shrimp right now, the last I heard, had a peak of around 16 megawatts is what they were anticipating, 14.5 to 16. They were looking at some different motors and different things and trying to get it down a little bit lower. The City of Madison is a little over, like 19.8 for total. So this is basically almost doubling, or our entire peak. And so we have to put in new transformers, distribution at the substations, in addition to distribution transformers at the actual premises. So there's going to be quite a bit of cost associated with that. And because they have a bio load, in other words, there's life inside the building that we have to try to maintain, because it can go a certain amount of time without life support, but after that they start losing product. And they anticipate having their own generation, but that's minimal bare necessities to keep the stuff alive, of putting two separate locations for improvements so that we have geographical diversity. So we have the greatest chance of being able to serve them if something happens at one of those sites. We don't lose everything. So we're trying to do that. That might cost a tiny bit more than if we did it all out of one location, but in the long run, it gives us more ability to feed from multiple directions, and it actually aids us as a city in our distribution system in the end. So we consider it a win-win if we can do that. So that's why it's so much more. There are some water improvements, and then there's also sewer improvements. And those are relatively small, but they still add up.
Okay, thank you.
George, just a minute. When you said the 1.3, was the 1.3, or wasn't that what we were going for the grant, the EDA grant?
Yes, those are the numbers
Okay.
for the EDA grant.
Okay.
And, that could give us 50% for those. And so then, obviously, if we can get the 50% money on that, we would, reduce the amount that we have to get from True Shrimp in a guarantee. So that's kind of the angle that we're working right now. True Shrimp is in their fundraising process right now. It's a significant amount of money they have to fundraise in order to kick this venture off, and it is venture capital, so it's a little different than just going out to the bank and asking for money. And so as they're doing that, we're working on these other things, these different grants, the agreements, and the engineering studies that we can move forward in a nice brisk pace when they get their funding put in place. So we haven't gotten very far on the agreement, but we'll be working on that here shortly as some other things have died down.
Some of that money set aside, that 4.3 million?
We have some money to set aside in different reserves, not quite that much, but we do have some money set aside in reserves, and would have to, again, this would be part of the agreement, with True Shrimp, that they'd have to have some skin in the game before we'd move forward, so.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up to George, I met with a couple people from True Shrimp Thursday night and Friday. They're still optimistic that they're going to get their funding, but yeah, that's one thing. We're not going to go down that road till we know everything's in place.
I know the city's been down that road a couple of times in the past.
Okay. I appreciate the
And I was
concern.
involved in some of those, so I just.
Yep. We want to be real, I think we're all going to be real cautious up here before we make any big moves.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul already spoke. Announcements. Anything, Kelly? Okay,
Just to say, I guess there's always a concern out there about repair of the streets, and I don't want this is one department reporting all the time, but we are working on the streets. We've got several projects going on right now. So just ask people to be patient. I know Gary was really looking forward to this good weather this week. Hopefully it'll hold. So, there are several approaches to repairing things in the streets. Yes, there is a mix we can get that, if there's been water in those holes, we can put it in there, but it's far more expensive than we wait for some of those to dry out and use other mix. And we have to look at that. We're always trying to see where we can for the taxpayers, and to spend money in a hurry to fix things that it costs a lot more in a way that is not prudent. It's not what we're going to do. So, we're working on that and some other things. So bear with us, please. I know it's been frustrating. Believe me, if it's been frustrating for members of the city, it's really been frustrating for the street department not to be able to get out and get some of that done as we go along. But we are working on it. So, thank you.
No executive session. Do I have a
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to adjourn? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you.